Good evening, Dr. Bellar. My name is Dwayne Bush Jr., and today I will be presenting my presentation on aggression in sports. Intro to aggression in sports. What is aggression? Aggression is hostile or violent behavior or attitudes toward another, readiness to attack or confront. Now, this is the definition of aggression not pertaining to sports. Aggression in sports may offer a different meaning. Aggression in sports can often mean instrumental behavior. This is also known as assertive behavior, where a player will play within the rules of the sport at a very high intensity, where a player may then come off as aggressive, but the player at some point in time will never ever try to hurt or intentionally injure another player. But the amount of aggression or assertive behavior in sports generally relies on the sport at hand. To run through the different type of sports they have, there are sports that offer no type of physical contact, such as tennis or bowling. There are sports that offer medial contact, such as basketball. There are sports that offer high levels of contact, such as hockey or football, where you find the most aggressive players. Aggression includes different behaviors that serve a common end, to inflict pain or injury on the opponent. However, this is not the case. Aggression in sports means you have the intent to win no matter what. Body aggression in sports. Oftentimes, you may hear of a professional athlete being known as an aggressive player. So below, I have pictures listed of Russell Westbrook on the far left, James Harrison in the middle, and Serena Williams on the far right. Starting with Serena Williams, she plays a sport known as tennis, where physical contact is close to none. There will never ever be any type of physical altercations in tennis unless somebody was to cross over the line or do something of that nature. Then in the middle, we have James Harrison, who plays one of the most aggressive positions in football, known as defensive end. Then on the far left, we have Russell Westbrook, where he plays right in the middle, where contact is definitely there, but can also be avoided. Four types of aggression. So far, the four types of aggression known are direct, indirect, instrumental, and emotional. To begin, we will begin with direct, where the athlete can abuse face to face, verbally or non verbally. When emotions run high enough in a situation such as below, can happen at any moment, verbally or non verbally. Here I have a picture of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. And if you don't know the story, Kevin Durant was a former teammate of Russell Westbrook's along with the Oklahoma City Thunder. But the next year, Kevin Durant decided to leave Oklahoma City and join the rival Golden State Warriors. Now in the two-face, they always end up in a verbal or non-verbal argument, as you see below, which is now known as direct aggression. Indirect aggression. Indirect aggression can oftentimes lead to physical altercations or direct aggression. Oftentimes in sports, there are rumors circulating that may or may not be true, depending on who they involve, or is it around the team, personal lives. While they may not know who's behind it, it's oftentimes believed to be other players. So they say that aggression can be resulted from those around you in your environment, who you see most, which is the players in the locker room, the coaches, the fans you're around every other night. This is all can result in indirect aggression if the wrong things are said about a player. Next, we have instrumental aggression. This refers mostly to collegiate and professional athletes who play to receive awards or compensation. So, as we know, collegiate athletes compete for spots all the time. They compete for the spotlight, they compete for stipends, they compete to get to the professional level. Now, professional athletes compete for spots also to see who can get the most money, who can get the biggest contracts, etc. But this can also lead to players getting hurt. Whether it may not be intentional, players do anything to get to the top, to be the best player they could possibly be in order for themselves and those family members and anybody else who they support. Next, we have emotional aggression. Emotions oftentimes run high during a close competition where there is little room to think. Players show their aggression best at the highest emotional point in the game. So, as we know, the close games, players tend to lose their head. At this point, they are at least concerned about the opponent and more worried about winning. As a result, they normally lose form, they lose cool-headedness, and they're only thinking about winning, which means that they can easily hurt another player just by overexerting themselves, just by poor form on a tackle, poor form on a closeout. Players can end up hurt, and no matter what the sport it is, or if they're losing and they really want to win badly, whether if it's a sport that's verbal, such as tennis. Serena Williams get the ball too hard. She can end up hitting the someone on the side, end up hitting the player. Injuries can happen any kind of way, shape, or form. Now the question comes, where does aggression come from? Well, according to the frustration aggression theory, aggression occurs because frustration arises due to a goal blockage. This theory also states that every time a player becomes frustrated, it immediately leads to aggression. Now, this theory was later proven false by later theories because, as you know now, just because a player is frustrated does not mean that they have to become hostile and injure other players. So therefore, it does not lead to aggression. The general aggression model states that there are situational and personal reasons that can cause a player to react aggressively. Situational aggression. In a player's career, they will run across multiple high-pressure situations, where stress begins to play a factor. Stress has a negative impact on life, let alone while playing a sport. This is why they believe aggression is said to have the most negative effect on a player, and especially high pressure situations. In high pressure situations, players tend to not think and lose the ability to perform, as I said earlier, and I have in quotation marks losing their head. This means that they're higher risk of injury due to stress, poor form, and overexertion. Players tend to overexert themselves when they're trying to overcome a goal that is oftentimes blocked, or has been blocked in the past, or it's never been reached before. Personal issues in sports. Off the court or field issues can affect a player's overall confidence, stress levels, and aggression. Rumors about personal matters could be circulating around a certain player that may or may not be true. On a professional level, the sport may be all the player has, and if they are performing poorly, they are wondering about their future. Oftentimes, family members rely on a player for financial support. So this goes into collegiate athletes trying to get to the professional level. Then maybe all they know is sports, whether it be football, basketball, whatever. They're feeling the pressure that they may not make it, and they may not make it to the big league. And now, when it leads to professional athletes and they're performing badly, how would they support their family if all they know is sports? And this is where sports psychologists come in to help keep these players motivated, so that they can continue to have the best sport performance possible. To go back to the trash talking begins even at bitty ball level of middle school. It's something that is a player has to overcome early to use it as fuel to play better, not to injure others. Now I'm going to talk about sports fans and how they can be the aggressor. Fans can oftentimes be brutal to players verbally and non-verbally. Trash talking stands more from just player to player, but from fans can attempt to throw off other players' game by verbal abuse. This can include a player being at the free throw line and somebody's calling out that person, calling them names, talking about their personal lives, making up things to distract the player just so their team can get the upper advantage. In some cases, there has been cases where fans and players have gotten into physical altercations. When a fan does not agree with a call during the game or is upset with the player's actions, they tend to throw miscellaneous items on the field or at other players. And this has been noted before. It happened multiple times, but in the recent years, there has been more fan ejections. I believe it's said to be 3,000 fan ejections in the last 2 years, which is the highest it's ever been, because they need to know these fans have to be under control and that they are just fans and they are not allowed to touch the players. This can lead to aggressive behavior from the player, and that can lead to lawsuits and whatnot, and that's something that they never want to do. So fans is the aggressor. On the left, I have a picture of nonverbal aggression. Now, if you don't know the situation involving Ron Artest got into a verbal and nonverbal argument with a player on the other team named Ben Wallace, where fans began to throw cans of beer, cans of nachos, things like that, of all kind of miscellaneous items at Ron Artest while he was on the court still. Now, Ron Artest didn't take the high road. He went into the stands and decided to put his hands on a fan, and this caused multiple lawsuits. Players were hurt, fans were hurt, but also Ron Artest was suspended and he had to go see a sports psychologist actually, so we see what was wrong. Why would he act in such an aggressive behavior? On the right, I have an NFL player talking to a fan because as exiting the game, a fan threw something at him, but it missed. This caused him to go toward the stands, toward that player, and try to confront him directly. But as you can see, he's being held back. This is why fans are being ejected more and more each day. Presenting excessive aggression. As a coach, instructor, guardian, set the tone by displaying sportsmanship, also addressing what is expected of them. This goes into parents, this goes into guardians, especially coaches. They have to show and display sportsmanship and show them that there are higher roles other than being aggressive in the way of trying to injure other players. The second one is have a level-headed team captain or captains who can help control the players. The third is have team sign sportsmanship papers. The fourth, if players have history of being overly aggressive, make them take management classes. This is very important. This is another time where sports psychologists come into play. Fan control and disciplinary actions. As I just talked about, fans are getting kicked out more and more each day. The influence of aggression in athletes. It is important for collegiate and professional athletes to keep their composure at all times as kids look up to them the most. Kids from all around the world are watching these sports events and hopes to see their favorite player, team, or whatever. As we all know, kids are strongly influenced by who they look up to most, so this is definitely playing into the elite athletes. If they see their favorite elite athlete is fighting or arguing with fans and referees and other players, they're going to be more inclined to do it as well. But one thing to dive into is passion versus aggression. Oftentimes, a player's passion for a sport is confused with being overly aggressive or hostile. In sports, aggression has a complete different meaning. There isn't always an intent to hurt the opposing player, as I've said multiple times throughout this PowerPoint presentation. Players want to win at any cost because it's their passion and oftentimes what they do best in life. But what is passion? Passion is strong and barely controllable emotion. Trying to keep a player's emotion in check during a pivotal point in any game is almost impossible. They may be attempted to do rash things that can come off as aggressive. Studies show that players who are more passionate tend to have higher levels of aggression. Sports performance. Aggressive behavior tends to have a positive impact on players' level of performance. These players tend to play very hard with little worry about the opposing team. However, these players are more likely to injure themselves in the process. Coaches believe an aggressive approach to an event is a smart strategy in order to win. is hostile, or cannot control themselves. It simply means they love what they do, and the most effective way to win is by being aggressive all game long. And I won't agree with this. To some, this may not be a good approach, but aggression in sports does not purposely result in the injury of players. Sports itself is the result of injury of other players.